the Joy Perspective, the podcast where I share life's challenges, things I've learned through years of personal development, and help others shift their perspective and find their joy. I'm Lauren Valdez, and together we'll dive into how changing the way we think can unlock possibilities, spark creativity, and transform the everyday. Let's dive in.
You have 5 days left to live. How do you spend those 5 days? Imagine this. Imagine you were told you have 5 days left to live. How would you do things differently? What things would you keep doing? What phone calls would you make? What habits would you change? In today's episode, we're going to dive a little bit into this, and we're going to try to slow down, take the time to think about the questions that come up, and really see if the way that we're living is the same way we would live if we knew we had 5 days left to live. Now, luckily for many of us, this isn't the news we just received, but you do have the opportunity today to really do some self-reflection. If you found out that you only had 5 days left to live, no extensions, no some days, what would you do? More importantly, would the life that you are living right now reflect what you would do in your last 5 days? So I have some talking points that are going to raise some questions, or I have some questions that I'm going to raise, and I want you to really think about them. So let's look at the first one. The first one is facing this 5-day scenario. What arises to the surface for you? Immediately, what comes to your mind? What people, what places, who do you need to forgive? What do you need to create? What are the things that come to the surface immediately for you? You know, when we think of, I only have 5 days left to live, or if, you've ever been in a really bad car accident, or you've seen a really bad car accident happen right in front of you, I feel like we get that gut punch. We get that, like, we're so grateful to be alive, but then what do we do at that time? So think for a moment. If you were really like in this scenario, you have 5 days left to live. Who are you going to see? Who are you going to call? What habits would you change? And then this is one that I think the whole reason I thought of this podcast or this idea is I have been cranking out work, and I have been really pouring myself into my job, and I've been feeling a lot of guilt and feeling like I was kind of falling short in other areas, in being a mom, and being a wife, and being a friend. And, if you've listened to some of my other episodes, I fully get we have to embrace the chaos. And we do the best that we can do, but also it's made me slow down a little bit and go, am I living the life that I would if I had 5 days left to live? Now, I'm sure if anybody heard you had 5 days left to live, you wouldn't probably be going to work. You'd probably be spending that time with the family. And I'm not saying go quit your job and live like you only had 5 days. But it does make me realize that the priority of my day to day has really been on the wrong thing for me. And this is me being open and vulnerable and honest with you. And I hope you can do the same with yourself. What priority have you been holding? And is it really what you want to be the priority? Because as much as I've been obsessing over checking my email and responding to people, almost knocked something over, and responding to people and, doing the best that I could in my work, it's also let other areas slip, ones that I'm not proud of. So in thinking of if I had 5 days left to live, what would I do? I'd stop worrying about some of those things that I've been prioritizing. So not only do we want to think about what comes to the surface when we talk about these 5 days left to live, or when we think of this scenario, but I also want to think about and talk about the disconnection between our values and our actions. I say that my family means the most, but have I been emotionally present for them? Have I been intentional with them? And that's where it was like this gut punch to me, where I was like, I don't like this. I don't like the person that I am when I'm working 14-hour days because that's not the priority. Yes, the job needs to get done, but not at the sacrifice of my family. So for me, I'm taking this moment and this time to say, you know what? My values and my actions are not aligning right now. My value is in my family and my faith. And yet I haven't been the best that I could be in those areas because I've been so focused on something else. And then, what is it on your calendar, on your agenda, on your life that you would stop doing if you had 5 days left to live? We value and really, if you've ever listened to somebody talk back on their life, they talk about how their kids grow up in a blink, or it was just like yesterday I was holding my little baby and now they're, 25 holding their own baby. And life does, it goes so fast. And so many times I catch myself and I catch other people saying like, oh, I'll do it when I'm less busy. I'll do it when things slow down. And I catch myself doing that now too. And I think that it's really important to say that kind of needs to stop. We can't push off what is really a priority to us or a value of ours at the sake of someday, because that someday may never come. So in the day-to-day, in the small daily shifts, I'm going to start working on, if I had 5 days to live, is that what I would focus on? Is that what I would prioritize? That doesn't mean I'm going to let anything else go in my life that isn't what I would do in my last 5 days, but it means that I'm going to make the priority the priority. And I'm going to let the other things get in line with where they are. My values are going to go first. My family, the things that matter, and then the other things. And what is that for you? What is it for you that you would reorganize, if you will, on a priority chart? What would you bring back to the top? And what would you let fall to the bottom? I think after this podcast, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write some of those things out. Doesn't mean I'm going to give it, 25% of my effort when I'm doing those things. But it means that I'm going to rearrange that priority chart for me. And I'm going to make sure that my values are where they belong. Or the things that I value, I should say. All right. I kind of touched on this one a little bit. But what excuse or line do you use? Is it that I'll get to it when things calm down? That's one I catch myself using. Or I'll do it when it's not my busy season. And then what happens in my non-busy seasons is, instead of maybe working 14-hour days, maybe I'm filling the other 6 hours that I'm not working with my kids' soccer, with dance, with whatever it is, right? There is no non-busy season, in my opinion, when you're a parent. There's just not. So what excuse do you need to eliminate? And when that comes up, when that excuse comes up, I think that's a good moment for us to get some clarity and go, is this a priority? Is this something I want to make time for right now? We often act like we have unlimited time, or that like that someday is going to come. And the reality in this episode, I want you to slow down and realize that that's not always going to come. That someday is not always going to come. And you can't just keep putting things off until that someday. But find what your excuse is. Mine is my busy season. I say that. I'll do it when it's not in my busy season. But then do I actually make the time to do it in my not busy season? And why is it that I'm not doing it even during my busy season? I know you can't do it all and have it all, but if things were the priority, then you would make the time for it. So even with 5 days left to live, You know, many of us wouldn't spend time scrolling social media. We wouldn't make time for whatever silly things we feel or use to numb us. We would get real clear. We would get real intentional with the time that we have. So I know some of us use it as a time to decompress and a time to just sit down, relax, scroll for a little bit. But I also think we need to be intentional with our time. And so if you're going to allow yourself to doom scroll, set that 5-minute timer. And if you're like many people where a timer goes off or an alarm goes off and then you snooze it, no. Set like a 5-minute one, set like a 7-minute one, a 9-minute one so that like it actually annoys you if you're still going, right? But be intentional. And what small realignments? What do you need to change to make sure that what you would do in those 5 days left are what you're doing in the day-to-day? I know for me, I have been really struggling on calling friends back or calling some family members that I want to talk to and catch up with. And it's just been, well, I have to do this and I have this and then I get called into this and I'm doing that. And that time never comes. Now it's 10 o'clock at night. My sister lives 3 hours ahead. Definitely not going to be calling her at 10 p.m. my time. So be intentional with your time. Find those shifts that you can make. And I don't want you to live like you're scared that you only have 5 days to live. But if you were to look at your time as sacred, if you were to look at your time as 5 days left to live, what things would quickly come off of that calendar? And what things would quickly make their way back on? Quickly make their way back on? You know what I mean. So, thinking of, we've got 5 days left to live. I want to really make sure that you understand. I'm not saying live like scared. I don't want you to live like you are, what is the word? Like, not in crisis, but I don't want you to live like that. But what can we do? We don't need to go quit our job. We don't need to sell our house. We don't need to, go bungee jumping because it's something you've always wanted to do. But what you can do is you can start to speak more freely. You can love a little bit deeper and more intentional. You can forgive faster. You can rest unapologetically. And you can create what you were born to create. And the things that I just said, I'm sure there was maybe one that struck you, maybe two that struck you. Is it that you need to speak more freely? It's one that I've tried to really work on in the last year myself, is being more direct with things. Still a work in progress. Love more deeply and intentionally. I know that's one I could work on. Forgive faster. The anniversary of my mom's passing just came and went. But the emotions, and I'll even venture to say regrets, that pop up for me each year around that time. My mom and I had a complicated relationship and both very stubborn, and I don't blame myself fully for the relationship that we had, and I don't blame my mom fully for the relationship that we had. But one thing I wish we were able to do was to forgive each other faster. In the last couple months, not knowing she was going to get so sick and pass, we started having texting conversations again. We started communicating. And I think that was such a blessing in my life, to be able to let go of some of that burden of unforgiveness that I was holding on to, that I wish I would have forgiven faster. Rest unapologetically. Lauren, rest. I know. If you know me, this is a hard one for me. But even today has been a day where I took the time to rest. I did mid-afternoon get some motivation, and I really wanted to get on and record this podcast for you guys. But rest, and don't be sorry for it. Your body needs it. Your mind needs it. Your family needs to see you do it so that they know it's okay for them to do it. And create what you were born to create. This is one that, live your purpose and live with purpose. So as we wrap this up, a few questions for you to think about. What would you let go of if you had 5 days left to live? What would you make space for? And the one that stings a little is, are you spending your time on what aligns with your values? And are you living the way you would if you had 5 days left to live? And if you're not, like me, there's some gut punches in there. Reflect on the changes that you need to make those changes, and find the joy that is in every day of our lives.
Thank you for joining me today on The Joy Perspective. I hope this episode helped you shift your mindset and find a little bit more joy in your life. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss one. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at @Lauren_Valdez for more inspiration and updates. I'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you. Until next time, keep shifting your perspective and finding your joy.